Okay, I call to order the Homewood BZA meeting for November. First up, the call to order,
All
and
right.
then the roll call.
All right, thank you. Mr. Gear,
Here.
Mr. Roberts, Mr. Foley, Ms. Hand,
Here.
Mr. Perkel, Mr. Alsabrook,
Here.
and Mr. Wortley.
Here.
Okay.
Next, we'll approve the minutes. Has everybody looked at them? Okay.
Make a motion to approve the minutes. Second.
And just for clarification, that was for both September 1st and October 6th, correct? All right,
Correct.
thank you. Acclamation then, if the board's in agreement?
Yes.
All right. Minutes approved, thank you.
There's no communications from me, and the chair is not here today. And we have no old business, so we are moving on to new business. We only have 4 people here today, so if you would like to delay your request to next week when there might be more people, you're able to do that. So just letting you know ahead of time, it has to be unanimous for you to get your variance. So first up, we have case SV 22-11-01, 2738 18th Street South.
Hey, my name is David Loverbaum. I'm the landscape architect working on the old Nadeau spot, which will be the new Little Professor spot. And our ask for variance is to use synthetic turf and concrete pavers in the front yard patio space. I don't know if that image does it justice, so I was gonna, maybe you could pass around my iPad instead to see what our intent is for that space. So I didn't know if you had any questions or,
If you're done presenting, we'll open this up to the public. This is a public hearing. If you would like to speak about this case, please come forward and sign in with your name and address.
I think so.
Would you like us to go ahead and sign in now?
Yeah. Mhm.
My name is Brad McGill, and this is Ms. Eva Wong, who is the owner of the property across the street at 1728 28th Avenue South. And her parking lot, Ms. Wong's parking lot and driveway, directly faces the driveway of the property in question. And we're concerned about the parking issues that this will create. We're happy to have a vibrant business in that location. We don't have a problem with the patio per se, but parking is already a serious challenge there. And when there were businesses in that location previously, 2 at least over the years, and Ms. Wong's been in that location for 26 years, has been in business a long time, there were significant traffic overflow problems during that period of time, and that was even without space committed to a patio taking up additional room. There were cars that would park there during business hours illegally. People would park their cars and leave them overnight when that location was a restaurant and nightclub. At one point, you had frequent calls to the police to have to come out and ticket or tow. So we're trying to gain some assurance on how this application would impact parking and how Ms. Wong can be confident it would not adversely affect her business, please. We're seeking some comfort on that.
Great, thank you for sharing.
Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have my personal I mean, the limitation, because I'm the only one there, and it's like solo, what do you call that? Solo army. And I cut hair, I cannot possibly guard my parking lot. So the problem in the past is just very stressful. You're constantly, I cannot chase away people. By the time I realized, my customer told me no parking, right?
Right.
And
Yeah, the parking's already tight in there, and if there's illegal overflow parking, it will make it really unworkable for Ms. Wong's business. You may see on the plot, it's a triangular place. There are only about 3 to 4 viable parking spots already. So even having an occasional inflow of an extra car or two, it does not work with the business flow there. So what is the process from here? I heard your comments at the beginning, ma'am, but in terms of any response or discussion or further commentary on this?
Oh, that's a great question. So they presented and you shared your concerns, and then we would close this section, and we would have questions from the board, and then they would be able to address your issues and concerns as well as ours.
I mean, what type of assurances are you looking for they meet the parking code? From my understanding, the 18th Street improvements kind of made that patio area useless in terms of parking. You can't turn a car around there.
Right.
So from the owner's perspective, from your perspective, what type of assurance are you looking for?
We had written a letter to the board in advance, and in there we indicated a handful of requests. One would be to have posts in a chain erected by the city so we can lock out parking overnight so people would not use it from that location. I don't know if you have that or need a copy of the letter, but we have one here. Another would be to have clearly posted no parking in tow-away zone signs put up, with the city agreeing to enforce that as needed. And we also are looking for a waiver of liability for anybody that's parking there illegally also. Again, this is driven by a long history of these problems.
Yeah, I understand, and I understand the tenant doesn't necessarily transfer with the use of the property, but it's gonna be a library or a children's bookstore.
Right, so the BZA, so I think what your letter is referring to is more of an enforcement issue. And I feel like we could have conversations on the side, but also, the city has provided, additional parking places along 18th Street. As far as how you want to protect your parking lot, you can choose to do whatever you'd like to. I'm not sure that the city can come in and put in additional resources on
I'm just
private property.
curious. I'm sorry. When they were right next to Wolf Camera years ago, they had that big parking lot. And right now they have very, it's just, I don't see how it's gonna accommodate the patrons.
Well, you mentioned a bookstore. Is there going to be a restaurant in this location also, like there was at Little Professor? Am I right in thinking this will be a Little Professor location?
That's correct.
So it'll be a restaurant, basically, with the restaurant traffic, right?
I think you might be forgetting that right now, they already have a store and all they have is a coffee shop, so they have been at a different location than the one by Wolf Store. But I'm sure you'll address all their concerns. A lot of these things are not things that we as the board control, and I understand your concerns, but I'm sure he'll be able to answer all your questions.
Yeah, just the parking. I don't know if they have sufficient parking, even just for a bookstore. I mean, and nevertheless, the patio.
So the parking requirements are controlled by the use of the property and also the zoning of the property. So the Planning Commission and the City Council rezoned the property to C4A 3 or 4 months ago.
In July.
In July. And so they're for C4A, which are most of the buildings that front 18th Street, there are no parking requirements unless you have a mezzanine level or a second story. And so for this structure, there is a mezzanine level, and so they provided the required parking for that level.
That photo actually gives a good demonstration of the issue here. If you're not familiar with the location, Ms. Wong's business is immediately below and to the left. You can see the driveways even face each other.
And the way this is now set up is where that white car is, kind of facing 18th Street, that's pulled into what used to be the Nadeau location.
Right.
That is no longer parking at all. That is a empty space that Little Professor is simply asking to be able to turn into a patio. They could turn it into a lawn if they wanted to. It's not parking anymore regardless.
Okay.
So what they're saying tonight isn't, hey, we want to get rid of parking
Okay.
and put in a patio. It's simply, hey, this is not parking at all. We want to do with it what we'd like, and what we'd like to do with it is create a patio.
Okay, so there are not parking places being taken out in order to do this?
That's correct.
And just to make sure I follow, so the patio would be on the right-hand side facing
Right.
18th in this
Right,
photograph
yeah.
right there?
Correct.
Yeah, let me,
I mean, so,
Yeah, and they do have parking, they have parking on-site, and they have street parking available.
So these are additional parking spaces that the city is adding. So this is that parking lot that we just saw the picture of.
I don't know if this, yeah, that's it. So this is the new parking spot here. It got cut off at the curb.
Oh,
and that's
there's
5 spaces?
Show me the other one. Show me the other one. Did you have
I had a rendering, yeah.
Yeah.
2 seconds.
I had it from when you came to committees and I couldn't find it.
Yes.
Sorry.
That
And what I
was
had
from-
was from the case packet.
Let's go back.
okay.
Sorry, everybody. This will help them.
I don't understand.
This one might get better.
Okay, so it's the, right, it's the entire
So-
front
so,
side facing the
yeah, so
hotel,
see
basically.
now, the city, when they came, they put, there's a curb here, and so you can't access this spot, and so the parking's going on this side.
Okay,
If that makes
thank you.
sense.
I mean, well, it looks great, it'd be a great
Yeah.
addition to the neighborhood, but I guess that kind of, it's maybe not even the point tonight, given that that's not allowed to be parking anymore anyway, but if I saw that right, there are only 5 spaces for a new restaurant location going in right there.
Yeah,
Well, I
There's
mean,
destined to be a parking
it's not
problem.
it's a bookstore, it's not a restaurant, so,
yeah.
you know, they are providing the required amount. And we can address this when we move on
Right,
to the
and
next
and as
section.
Mr. Smith pointed out, the city has now provided public parking all in front of that, so hopefully some of those patrons going through there would also utilize that parking along 18th Street. So they lost some of the parking as a result of that, but hopefully patrons will use that. And also, so many of these businesses are intended to be pedestrian oriented, so hopefully they'll park somewhere and then they'll walk to the side, you know.
Okay, thank you. Again, the problem's not with the development, it's just making sure that Ms. Wong's property and business operations not impacted by all this. And I think there's some reason for concern, given the limited parking there anyway. So anything we can ask the board to provide in terms of assistance to ensure, like she said, she's a sole operator, she's in there by herself all day. There's not even a
Yeah.
receptionist to chase people away. She's busy earning a living in there. We just
Yeah.
need to make sure this doesn't become an ongoing problem, please.
Yeah, and to reiterate, we unfortunately don't have any control over that. That's code enforcement, as Mr. Smith mentioned, so that you would have to talk to someone else. We only control if this is a lawn or a porch or whatever. We don't have any control over other people's parking, unfortunately.
And there may be some opportunities for public parking along 27th South. But yeah, we can certainly discuss
Okay,
those things.
thank you. How should we plan to follow up from here? Do we need to speak to somebody else with the city, or will the board be in touch with Ms. Wong on the
Yeah,
outcome?
I talk to Ms. Wong all the time.
Okay.
But yeah, we can certainly continue
Okay,
discussions about parking downtown and how to make sure that people aren't parking where they shouldn't be.
Yeah,
any other questions or comments, Anita?
not really, well.
Okay, I
We,
think
we,
that probably covers it
they
tonight.
probably read all of that. Y'all all have the letter, but I don't need to give you another copy.
I think that's been
Right,
said
we
already.
forwarded copies, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We forwarded copies of your letter to the board in advance of tonight's meeting, so they've had an opportunity to read that, your concerns.
Yeah, and then the police, they cannot patrol the parking lot, right? They don't come to the business.
We should
Well, the
probably
thing-
let's take that with Mr. Smith at another time then, I think, yeah. Good, all right, thank you so much. We appreciate the board's
Yeah.
consideration on this.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you.
sharing. If there was anybody else who would like to come from the public to speak on this case? Anybody else would like to speak on this case? If not, we will close the public hearing part of this case and open it to the board for questions. You can go back.
Did you have any questions?
No, but if you wanted to address their concerns
Oh,
again,
yeah.
feel free to.
So I think there's just a coffee shop in there, no restaurant, and then just kind of patio space out front. So, I think that was it.
I move we vote to approve case SV 22-11-01.
I'll second.
All right. Mr. Gear,
Yes.
Mr. Alsabrook,
Yes.
Mr. Wortley,
Yes.
and Ms. Hand.
Yes. You have 180 days to pull your permit. The variance approval is not intended to apply building permit approval. And yes, if you're increasing impervious coverage, I'm not sure that this applies, Kale. But let's say it is. Yeah. Okay, great. We're great.
All right.
You have 180 days.
Okay, thanks.
Next, we'll be looking at SV 22-11-02, 141 West Glenwood Drive.
Thank y'all. I'm Chris Richards. I'm the owner at 141 West Glenwood Drive. So just a little background on where we are. My wife Stuart and I have lived in Homewood for since 2012. We bought our first house on Kenilworth and moved to West Glenwood in June of this year, about mid-June. Before moving in, our inspector noted that on the driveway there was it was broken apart, pooling water, and there was a fall hazard on several places. Driveways kind of combined with a sidewalk. So we had that replaced and poured concrete instead of asphalt and bricks, and halted completion of the entire driveway, which part of what we're asking to do is currently gravel and was that way when we moved in. I don't know if y'all can see, I have, and we've done an impervious space survey, excuse me. If y'all have copies, I have some for y'all. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you can see the kind of the front portion, that L space, I guess at the bottom for what you're looking at. So that's the portion of the driveway that's currently, this is an old survey that you're looking at here. The one that we passed out is the impervious survey. Okay, so the front portion is the asphalt that's labeled there. That's now concrete. The rest of that is existing gravel. We stopped doing that. Our intention was to complete concrete on there, but we stopped when we discovered that we were at the 50% threshold as far as impervious space on the property. So with the addition to completing or converting the pea gravel to concrete, that puts us at 51%. Right now, with just the gravel space at the junction from gravel to concrete, as we discovered Halloween, when restocking Halloween candy, there's a significant trip hazard. There's about a 6.5-inch drop when you go from concrete to gravel. So we're hoping to This is where our contractor filled in gravel. And there's the space that you can see the actual drop off. This was done, the measurements were done kind of before we did the impervious space survey. But bottom line is we held up on that, but we're gonna go from 50 to 51%. That's what we've requested to do. We're good.
Yeah, great. So now we're going to open the public portion of this case. If there is anybody from the public who would like to speak on this, please come forward and sign in. It looks like there's probably no one. So we're going to close the public part of this hearing and open this up to the board for questions.
And I would note for the board's consideration, we did receive 3 letters of support from nearby property owners, as I say, in support of the proposed variance request. And you have copies of those, so.
Great. Also, my apologies, Mr. Richards, you might want to come back up. Sorry, that wasn't clear on my part. It's hard to be in the hot seat.
Any concerns from the adjacent property owner, or did they support? Was that one of the letters?
No, the adjacent, these were
comment.
nearby property owners, but they were not adjacent property owners.
The adjacent property owners, yeah, we've gotten verbal support from them, but nothing written, no.
Okay. Any other questions from you guys? I move to approve SV 221102.
Second.
All right. Mr. Gear,
Yes.
Mr. Alsabrook,
Yes.
Mr. Wortley,
Yes.
and Ms. Hand.
Yes, you have 180 days to pull your permit, and the variance approval is not intended to imply building permit approval. And if you are increasing the impervious coverage, you'll need a non-adverse impact letter for stormwater runoff from a civil engineer.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, great, thank you.
Moving on, we're going to do case SV 22-11-03, 538 Broadway Street. And for this, that you would note that there is a B, and C section, and we're only going to go over B and C because we found that the A request was unnecessary. Okay. Yeah. Feel free to sign in.
Okay. I'm Lauren Phillips. I'm at 538 Broadway Street, and I'm here to request a variance on, so you are saying A, we don't need to worry about that at all?
Correct.
That's what I have the plans and everything for. So B and C, I'm here to just ask approval for something that was already there when we purchased the house. It makes it easy for me to get out on Broadway, which is busy traffic with my kids. This parking pad that caused, this variance, the change. But anyway, that's why I'm here, to just ask for a variance for something that was already there when we purchased the house. We didn't know that there was not a variance approved for it.
Great. If there's nothing else, we'll open this up to the public portion of this hearing. And if there was anyone who would like to speak on this case, please come forward and sign in. Okay, we're going to close that portion and we'll open it up to the questions from the board.
Hello.
Hey.
Is the rear building in use? I wasn't able to see it from a Google map very well, but
Yes, it's a shed, yes.
thank you.
In the calculations in B and C, you're saying all of that was already there, and this is just
Yeah, we just moved in last week, yes.
putting this into? Okay.
Into official yes. And I didn't even know that that was a variance issue until I filed for A. And
Gotcha.
then looking at the pictures of A, that's when B and C was discovered, that was actual, we needed a variance approval for that.
You mean B came first? Yeah. Then A came last, is our B.
Oh,
Was put in by Wyatt, yeah. We got it.
okay.
We're just putting it to the back. Your
Okay.
A is our B.
Any other questions?
No.
I move to approve SV 221103.
Second.
All right. Mr. Gear,
Yes.
Mr. Alsabrook,
Yes.
Mr. Workley,
Yes.
and Ms. Hand.
Yes. You have 180 days to pull your permit, and this does not imply that the building permit will be approved. And if you are increasing impervious coverage issue, you'll need a non-adverse impact letter for storm water runoff from a civil engineer.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So just to be clear, since I'm not increasing anything, I don't need that letter, right? Since it's, okay, so, okay, y'all get in touch with me about that. Okay, thank you.
Great. Last but not least, we will move on to BZA case SV-22-11-04, 317 Devon Drive.
Excuse me. My name is Charles Stafford. My wife is Linda back there. And we live on the corner of Devon and Runson Road, 317 Devon Drive. And we're asking for relief, a corner lot hardship. We want to replace a storage building that is there now that's really bad looking and put in another one. And that's basically what I'm here for.
Thank you.
If the city council had taken it up, I wouldn't be here, I assume.
Thank goodness we're not the city
I
council.
can't hear that well. What now?
Thank goodness we're not the city council.
What did she, I didn't understand.
Sorry. Do you mind signing in the pad in front of
Oh,
you?
signing in, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Can I have this pen? It's great for texting with, the rubber tip.
I think I will pass that on to Fred. You could talk to him later and see. We are going to now open the public portion of this hearing. If there was anybody who would like to speak on this case, you can now come forward. It seems like there is no one, so we are going to move to questions from the board. Do we have questions? Okay, good.
No questions.
I move we vote to approve SV 22-11-04.
Second?
Well, no, all right, Mr. Gear, you made the motion. Who made the second?
Mr. Alsobrook?
All right, thank you. All right. Mr. Gear,
Yes.
Mr. Alsobrook,
Yes.
Mr. Wortley,
Yes.
and Ms. Hand.
Yes, you have 180 days to pull your permit, and this variance approval is not intended to imply that your building permit will be approved necessarily.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr.
Sherry.
I was going to ask Mr. Stafford, are you going to build right back in the same location? Is that the intent?
Yes, but it's a larger building, you know.
But be aware that you can't get too close to the side property line. I'm
I
just saying.
realize that.
Okay,
I know the property setbacks, and I also
Okay.
have a power line setback.
very
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you.
And now I adjourn the November meeting of the BZA.